Tell us about the power that became, and this anthem that became something inside so strong. How did it come about?
Well, I mean, I did see footage. I'm not sure what the footage was of, but anyway, it was a footage of there were white soldiers, and they were on a flatbed truck, and as I remember it, there were these huge rubbish bins, and some of them were in the rubbish bins, standing up with, I can't remember whether it was shotguns or rifles. And they were going through one of the townships, and they were shooting just at random at black people in the township. So that was in there. I was also patron of at the time, Peter and I were living in a village called Cuddington, next door to the village pub. We got our priorities right. And but in Aylesbury, our local town, every Saturday, it seemed, there'd be a fight between the white kids and the not white kids. And I got made patron of the Aylesbury Vale Multicultural Centre. And I remember for some reason I was chairing the meeting, for some reason. And we were discussing this situation. And the kids wanted more facilities, sport and things like that. And I'm sitting there chairing this, and the only thing the adults in the room could provide was there was another nightclub going up. And so from my point of view, sitting there is, and I don't know I can't remember whether it did eventually get built, but from my perspective, sitting there as chair of this thing, I thought to myself, the kids want more facilities, and the only thing we adults can offer is more places to drink. So I decided that I would write something for them. I mean, it was just a general view, not just I would write something, and the two things were kind of connected. And then one evening, and Peter and we live next door to the pub, so we could drink late. Peter had retired wounded, and I was still there drinking. And eventually I decided to go home, and I went straight to the music room. And I sat down at the electric piano, and I just played a C chord. I put my head back, and I sang straight off the first two lines. The higher you build your barriers, the taller I become. At which time I started crying, because I was really writing about my life as a gay child, a gay youth, and a gay man. So all of these things are combined. So I write the song. I wrote quite a bit of it then, and then I went to bed. Eventually it took me about 3 or 4 weeks to get it right. To get it right. Everything in the right place. And then, of course, I realised this is bigger than I thought, because the song applies, you could say it applies to anyone who's ever had a battle to fight. And of course there are billions of us. So it was just far bigger. It was about something far bigger than all of those things that I had thought I was writing about, which of course can often happen. But in this case, it ended up with that song, and we chose to concentrate on apartheid. Because, for example, if I had said that this had anything to my life as a gay man and a gay child, we wouldn't be talking about the song now. And in fact, it was the hard work, because when I say we, I mean I write the songs, and there are lots about them that I mean, there are people who I work with, hundreds of them probably, who I will never meet. You don't do these things on your own. It is a team effort. It always is a team effort. It took us a long time to get anyone to play it because we kept being told it's too political. By that time, I decided that I didn't want to sing it. I didn't want to go through the business of performing and being interviewed, and I didn't want to do that. But it had to be sung by somebody black,
Yeah.
and so we took it to several prominent black artists, and we were told it was too political. And I remember a conversation with someone who should remain nameless, who said, "This is a bit tough on white people." And I said, it's a little bit difficult to be overly enthusiastic about apartheid and white people in South Africa. If I'd have gone on, I would have said, then again, there's always Black Sash. I had enormous respect for these middle-class women who dressed in white with a black sash and stood silently in the street in protest against apartheid. They needn't have done it. They could have stayed at home with their comfortable lives, but they didn't. I had huge respect for them. But in this context, it's a little hard on white people. Of course, in retrospect, and I have to say, very much like my audiences, but his career was based on white people's appreciation. I mean, if you'd have looked at his concerts, probably 90% of the people in the audience would have been white. So he had to protect his work. But in fact, he asked me to change it, specifically the bridge. So I did change it, but I made it worse. I made it even tougher. So no, that didn't get played. So eventually I got a call from Derek Green at China Records, who said, I hear you don't want to sing it, but it's a great song. Let's go in the studio and make a record. I had, previous to that, had an offer of a guaranteed Christmas hit for a white British group who I knew were wrong. And in fact, there's nothing worse than somebody offering you your price. Because I also thought at the time, do I have the right to say no to something that will give Peter and I probable security for the rest of our days? That time was my thinking. Fortunately, before I fell over with the strain, Derek rang. So let's make a record. So I said yes, so we did.
And it prevails. I mean, it's...
Yeah, it's a good song.